For my PC users, we are going to talk about how we are going to download Mamp so that we can do our web design using the local server. I am first of all going to go to Google and we're just going to ask for Mamp, and I am just going to go to the downloads and that will give me this. I could also go to Mamp, and if you see here, here's a free download. So I'm simply going to either click here for download for Windows on a PC, or if we go back to that first page I was on, I could have chosen this one and clicked on this one to download. And web designers will tell you not to use that newest beta version because all of the bugs probably haven't been worked out yet, and if you're new to web design, you're better to work on the more established one so that you understand whether or not if there's a problem, it's because of user error as opposed to the error in Mamp. And if you're new, you just wouldn't know what's wrong, if it's you or the program. So go ahead and work in the more established one. I have already downloaded it, so we do not need to, I don't need to download it right now. Sorry, let me get out of that window. I'm going to open my File Explorer. File Explorer, come on, you can do it. And we're going to go to Downloads, and if you see here, Mamp is here. And you would click this and it would install for you. Now, I have already installed it, so I'm not going to actually go through the process of that. So let me just close that out for a second. But if you hadn't installed it yet, you would go ahead and install it. Now, I'm going to go back to my File Explorer, and let me tell you there are two places that you can find and click on Mamp. One is an app, and one is the actual program with the folders. Right now, I want to find the folders. I'm going to go down to Local Disk, and I am going to see that there is Mamp here. I'm going to click on it, and there are all these folders here that I am going to need to be able to use this program. So that is great, and I'll point out that this htdocs, this is something we are going to be using soon. So keep that in mind, that we'll be coming back to that. You will also see in the app, then here is Mamp, and this is the actual app. So this was on the local disk, this is the Mamp folder, and this is the Mamp app. So when we need to access the folders, we will go through to this PC local disk. When we want to open the app, we will go through here. So right now I am going to open the app. And we get a nice little window here. We go ahead and put my File Explorer down, and here we are going to go to Open Web Start page, and it is going to take us to a Mamp site that tells us Mamp has been installed successfully. Woo! Okay, isn't that great? Awesome, wonderful, we're happy. We are going to now go to Tools, and we are going to go to PHP My Admin. PHP is the language that we are using for our website, so let's go there. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. We are going to click on Databases. Now you're going to see a box right here that asks for your database name. So this is the site that you are going to be working on. And so whatever you name this database, this is the name that we are going to use in WordPress. So it's extremely important that you remember exactly what you name it. Because if you are one letter off, if you change the spelling, then we're going to have a really hard time connecting the database with WordPress. So I am going to call mine Mo Example Site. So this is important that I look here and I see I have two E's for the Mo and the example. And so I just want to remember that I went ahead and did that as opposed to rushing them, putting them together and kind of getting rid of it. And I didn't say Mo sample site, I said example site, and I didn't say Mo example page, I said Mo example site. So I'm going to have to use this exact same name later on. So this happens with students that it's very common that they pick one name here and forget what it is later. So remember this, you can copy paste it, put it somewhere where you won't forget it. You can text it to yourself, whatever you'd like to remember it. We can always come back here and take a look at what it is, but it will just save time if we know what it is. Then we click Create. Now, you see it's over here and we now have our Mo example site. Whoop, okay, so isn't that fabulous? Our next step is going to be to install WordPress. And you could actually install WordPress first before Mamp, or it doesn't matter which one you do first. All right, so we are going to actually go to Google. Let's go to Google again, and we are going to go to wordpress.org. And if you notice, it was giving us wordpress.com as our quick options. We don't want that. We want wordpress.com or .org. This means that you can actually download this and you have control over it. If you're on wordpress.com, that's actually not under your control. That is under WordPress's control. So we are going to download the .org and we are going to be able to take control over this. So let's go to download, and we are going to download the most recent version of it. We are not, when we're in a web design class, we're not going through a hosting provider. We're going to be building a website on a local server. So we pick the second option, which is download and install. And we are going to then click on download WordPress. All right, we are going to show it in the folder. And right now it is zipped, so we have to change that. So I'm going to click on it. And if you notice in a PC, we have extract here. It's in that pink. We want to tell it to extract all. So this will take just a little bit of time. And through the magic of editing, we were able to cut out about 10 minutes of waiting for this to install. It is almost there. Excellent. Now that it has been extracted, we are going to rename it. We are going to do a right click on that. Now just note that if you have not extracted the file, you will not be able to rename it. So if you're doing a right click and trying to rename it and it won't give you that option, there's a good chance that you haven't extracted it yet. So I have extracted it, so we're going to do rename, and I am now going to name it exactly what I named my database, Mo Example Site. So it's named exactly what my database is named, and remember that they need to be the same. So I have successfully done that. Now I need to move this folder into the Mamp folder. So I'm going to need to open another window. So we're going to open a new window. And I am going to go into local disk drive. I'm going to go into the Mamp folder. And so remember, I'm not going into the app, which had that little elephant icon. I'm going into the folder, and I'm going to see HT Docs right here. I am going to take this Mo example site, and I am going to drag it. Actually, I'm not going to drag it. I am going to copy, then I'm going to go to HT Docs, and I'm going to paste it into HT Docs. The reason I copy it instead of dragging it, because technically I could drag it, but then if I've made a mistake, I have to start the whole process over and re-download WordPress, which is annoying and kind of a nightmare. So if I just have copy and pasted it, it will save a bit of time for me. And I like saving time. And it is now moved in there. So let's just click on HT Docs and we will see that it is in there. Great. And if I click there, I will see those different folders. So your folder should have this admin, content, includes, and then a bunch of individual files like that. All right, so we are in good shape here. I need to now make sure that Mamp knows where to find that file. So when it's going to set up my local server, that it knows where to get it. And in order to do that, I am going to go to Mamp. So this is the app. So if you don't still have it open, mine's still sitting open from before, but you would click on the little gray elephant. We're not going to use Mamp Pro, which is that blue one, because they'll give it to us free for a couple weeks, but then we'd have to pay. So it's just easier to start out with the regular Mamp. So we have our Mamp. So we go to Mamp, Preferences, and then we're going to go to Web Server. And right now it already knows where to find it, which it knows to go to HT Docs, but it doesn't know which file in HT Docs. So we are going to tell it that we are going to have Mo example site. If I had more than one website, I could just leave it on HT Docs. All right, so you can see it is now setting that up. If this has all worked correctly, I will now click the Open Web Start page and be able to link the WordPress with the database. All right, I'm now at the website. I am going to click on my website. Excellent, this is where we want to be. We're on WordPress and it wants us to select our language. I'm choosing English. Just click Let's Go. Don't worry about what all this says. We are now going to enter the name of that we have chosen before. This is the name that was on your database and on your folder that you put into Mamp HT Docs. So Mo example site. Remember, it has to be exact. No spelling variations, no spaces, no dashes or underscores, etc. 100% exactly the same. Now, WordPress is not asking for your username or password at this point. It is asking for information that will help it map to access the information that it needs. So we are actually going to put root for username and root for password, because this is going to help it to find our website to be able to link it to that local host. Now I'm going to click Submit and run the installation. As you can see, I already have WordPress installed, so it's not going to give me one of the steps. So let me go to my handout. If you haven't installed it yet, you will have this screen. Now on this screen, you're going to have to put in some various information, and let me just walk through. You'll need to put in your site title, and here for the site title, you can just go ahead and use the same thing that you've been using so far. I've been using Mo Example Site. You could actually change this one because we already have our database linked to the website. So if we want to capitalize and put a space in between on this one, it would be okay. But perhaps just to avoid confusion, I would recommend just using the exact same name you've been using. Now, you are also going to be having to either create or use a login for WordPress. So if you don't have a WordPress login, where you haven't administered a WordPress.org website before, you're going to create one. So here you will create your own username, and let me make this a little bit bigger. So we're not using that root anymore because that's all done. It's already found our database and everything's linked. So here I'm going to use a database that I would like to use to log in when I'm going to be working on a website as a website designer. So I just use Megan Mo as my username, and I am going to put in a password. Now, I already have a password that I use, so I put that one in, but often it will, first of all, pull up an automatic one, and if it does that for me, I just delete the automatic one and I put in a one that I would use. The one I happen to use for this website, it thinks it's weak, so I have to click confirm use of weak password. Now, is this great for you? No. However, I already have this across a few different websites, so at this point, I don't want to change it in the middle of teaching and then forget it while we're in the middle of class someday. So I'm just going to keep my same old weak password for the moment. Then I'm going to put in an email, the email that I want them to contact me on, WordPress to contact me on. And then there is a search engine visibility. Most of the time you do not want to check this because you probably want a site such as Google to suggest your website if somebody's searching for something similar. So if somebody's looking for a photography business in Cleveland, Tennessee, and that's what your website is on, you want it to index the site and suggest it. A case where I can think of as somebody might not want it indexed, in which you would click this, would be perhaps if you're doing a personal portfolio site and you don't want people to find it organically, you only want people to get to it if you've shared a link with them. And if that's the case, that you don't want people to find it just by Googling your name, then you would click here. Although it seems to me for the most part, if this is a portfolio, you probably want people to find you, but I could be wrong. All right, and then you would click Install WordPress. And once you've installed WordPress, it will ask you to log in. And so essentially you will be now at the place where we are going to pick up. You'll get this type of thing where you now will put in that username and your password, and you are going to log in. So here we are on WordPress, and you have your basic site. This is called your dashboard right here, and that's amazing that we have the dashboard here. And we are going to we're going to work a lot with this later, but let me just show you, if you wanted to see what your web page looks like, not how you're going to manage it, administrate it on this back end, but if you want to see what it looks like, you could go up to here where I have the name of my website, and you could click Visit Site. And ta-da! This is what it looks like before I've done anything to it. It's ugly, it's awful, it's what WordPress has done automatically. But also, isn't it beautiful because I didn't have to write any code for this? This is what it came up with without me having to write any code. Now let's say I want to go back to the dashboard. Um, so let me just go back to that site for a second. So dashboard, I would just hover over the name of the site, click dashboard, and then I am back here. And we are going to work all on this very soon. And your site's going to be customized and it is going to be fabulous very soon. I promise. We got this.